Shadow Stalkers are elusive and alien creatures from another plane, which appear strange and unsettling to most Tyrians. Their bizarre and uncanny armies strike terror into the heart of any who dare to face them. The Shadow Stalkers were brought to Tyria through a flaw in their void gates, which left permanent scars throughout their home plane. Desperate to save their home, these mysterious entities ventured through the void gates to Tyria, shutting off their only path of return. Now, they are trapped in a strange and unfamiliar plane, uncertain if their sacrifice was enough to save their home.
Hey everybody, it's Warboss Fitz again, and today we are going to go over the Shadow Stalkers. You guys voted for it, so here it is. The Shadow Stalkers were designed to be compatible with the range of Night Stalkers from Mantic Games for Kings of War. And when they were made, they pretty much conformed to the army completely. But now Mantic seems to have changed up the army list, and some of the stuff that you could get in the beginning is just not available anymore. So we'll go through as I put up the slides of stuff. That will be the Mantic model equivalent, and then at the end, I went a completely separate direction. So in true Warboss Fitz luck fashion, OPR upgraded to rule set 3.2 in between the time I recorded the units and then recorded the game. So at least I didn't do the game, so it didn't completely invalidate that. But a few changes before we get going into everything. I'm just going to throw this in there at the beginning. So whenever this pops up, it's going to be an edit where I let you know what has changed. So we're going to start off like everybody else with the special rules. Devour. When this model makes an attack in melee, roll 1 dice. On a 6, the target takes 1 wound. In Snare, enemies get -1 to hit in melee when attacking units, where all models have this rule. Ethereal counts as having Stealth and Strider when taking a wound. Roll 1 dice, and on a 5 up it is ignored. Pumpkin Master. This model and its unit gets +1 to hit in melee. Sense Magic. When taking a wound, roll 1 die, and on a 6 it is ignored, and if the wound was from a spell, then it is ignored on a 4. Soul Hunter. This model and its unit move +2 on advance and +4 on rush and charge. Undead. Whenever this unit fails a morale test, it counts as passed instead. Then roll as many dice as remaining models /tough with this rule, and for each result of 1 to 3, the unit takes 1 wound, which can't be ignored. Then Vicious Aura. This model and its unit get poisoned in melee. Now let's go over a few things here. We're going to break from what we normally do, and we're just going to talk about some of these rules. Now, Ethereal, in theory, sounds like it's really good. You get regeneration and you get Stealth and Strider on the units that have Ethereal, but those units are also going to have a base armor of 6. So if your enemy has a ton of high AP weapons, Ethereal is going to have the advantage there. But also, there's only a few units with Ethereal. Let's see, the list is the Shadow Horror, the Spectres, the Phantoms, the Soul Flayers, and the Fang Swarms. We'll go over it more as we go through. And then Undead, everything in the army is undead. So that means the upside to having the Undead rule is that you're never going to have a unit that is stunned or pinned. The unit is going to always be operating at 100% efficiency. The downside to that is if you fail a morale test, you're probably going to lose a few wounds. So for spells, Haunted, 1. Target 2 enemy units within 12. Get -1 to their next morale test roll. Spectral Light, 1. Target enemy unit within 12 and it takes 3 hits. Chill of Death, 2. Target enemy model within 12 and it takes 2 hits with AP 4. Cobweb, 2. Target 2 friendly units within 12 and get +1 to defense rolls next time they take hits. Possessed, 3. Target 2 enemy units within 6 and they get -4 next time they advance or -8 next time they rush and charge. Thorn Vines, 3. Target 2 enemy units within 9. They take 6 hits each. Now you can tell with these spells and the names of them, this is a horror-themed army. The Possessed one. Target 2 enemy units within 6 to get -4 next time they advance or -8. That is a, you don't get to go anywhere. I'm going to play with you. And then Haunted, 2 enemy units within 12 get -1 to the next morale test roll. Against certain armies, that might be able to break open an entire front. Just telling 2 enemies their morale is just going to be worse this turn. That's great. As far as the rest of it, everybody else is kind of the same stuff, but the Haunted and the Possessed spells here are going to be the the standout ones for me. Now let's go ahead and start with the units. With these units, there's 16 units in this army, but there's not much depth to them. They kind of all do what they do with little upgrades here and there. Running a Shadow Spectre army means that the enemy could figure out what your army does just by having the Shadow Spectres, because the units don't have much wiggle room in them. We'll start out with Scarecrows, 10 of them for 80 points. Quality 5, defensive 5, 10 hand weapons for 1 attack, stealth, and undead. Now, you can replace the hand weapons with halberds for rending or spear for counter. That's it. 8 points apiece. Those are your cheap infantry. Even though they're not as cheap as some people's, that's what you got. They are undead and stealthy. Yeah, moving on.
Another unit that got added in today is the Tormentors. 10 of them for 130 points. Quality 5, defensive 6. They have Dodge, Scout, Shadowborn, and Stealth. They come with 10 Toxin Claws for 2 attacks apiece with poison, and they have no upgrades.
Spectres, 5 of them for 75 points. Quality 5, defensive 6. They have 1 attack apiece with claws, and they have 1 shot with a shadow bolt at 18 inches and AP 1. They are ethereal and undead. And this unit has no upgrades whatsoever. You get what you pay for. Shambling undead that fire nightmare bolts. And as you can tell by the picture, I think these would make better Scarecrows than Spectres. Phantoms, 5 of them for 75 points, quality 4, defensive 6, 5 rending claws, 1 attack apiece with rending, ethereal, flying, and undead with no upgrades. Defensive 6 with the ethereal, so they get quasi regeneration. They have stealth attached to them and strider. So this is going to be like a shock type unit. With defensive 6, they're not going to stick around long, but they do have quality 4 with the rending claws. So just throwing them at the enemy, 75 points for 5 of them. I don't see a problem with that. Now it's time for some damage dealing. 5 Reapers for 130 points, quality 3, defensive 4, 2 attacks apiece at AP 1, ensnare, stealth, and undead. The unit has no upgrades. Yeah, here we are. They have 2 attacks with AP 1, so they're going to be good at killing other enemy infantry, especially with the quality 3. Quality 3 is hard to come by on infantry-sized units. So these guys are going to be doing a lot of your heavy lifting when it comes to killing the enemies like line infantry. Butchers. Now we get to the real damage-dealing stuff. In the army, 3 of them for 160 points, quality 4, defensive 3. They get 3 dual heavy hand weapons for 2 attacks apiece with 1 AP. They have Devour, Stealth, Toughness 3, and Undead. And you can replace the dual hand weapons with dual heavy close combat weapons to give them 4 attacks apiece, or you can replace it with a heavy great weapon, which gives them plus 1 attack, so that'll be 3 attacks at AP 3. This is going to be where you're going to want to put your characters in. We'll go over it more when we get to the characters, but keep this unit in mind. This is where you're going to want to be able to nudge and fudge some numbers. Soul Flayers. Now, the picture for these guys I actually brought out of the Twilight Kin army from Mantic. The wiki didn't have anything for a picture, so I looked around for Mantic, and this is what I found. These guys would probably be good here. Well, except for the whole ethereal part. I don't know. Model agnostic. Go for it. 3 of them for 220 points. Quality of 3, defensive 6. 3 great weapons, 2 attacks apiece at AP 2, ethereal, fast, impact 2, toughness 3, and undead. Unit's got no upgrades, so you get what it says. With the impact hits, they might have supposed to be a cavalry unit or just large ghosts. I'm not sure what I would use. I'm not sure what I would use for this unit. But quality 3, 2 attacks apiece with AP 2, really nice. The defensive 6 with the ethereal, though, is kind of where it lets it down. If anything attacks them back, they're not going to be as tanky as I would have liked for 220 points. But the option's there if you want these guys to be your damage dealer, to rely on the ethereal rule. Maybe you roll a whole bunch of 6s. I don't know. I knew a guy who played demons in 40k back in like 5th edition. They had a 5-up invul save. He'd make 8 out of 10 of his rolls of 5-up. Maybe this would be a great army for him. Ethereal stuff. He'd never lose. So either way, salt to taste if you want to have soul flayers or butchers as your larger unit damage dealers. Shadow Hounds, 5 of them for 95 points, quality 4, defensive 6, 2 attacks apiece, ensnare, fast, ethereal, and undead. Now for the upgrades, you can give it poison, and you can also give it scout. Now I normally say that the dog units, like the wolves, or in this case, these are wolves, they just have a couple heads and needle teeth. Scout, along with fast, and in this case, especially ethereal. Meat missile, turn 1, throw them out there, deal with this. They only got a defensive 6, but with the ethereal, it does give them the quasi-regeneration. If the enemy leaves something open to where you could snake back there and get to a catapult or a war machine, or if they have a caster that's on his own, just kind of hiding, these guys would be able to get there faster than the enemy probably thinks they can. Fang Swarm, 3 of them for 80 points. Quality 6, defensive 6, 3 attacks apiece with rending, ethereal, toughness 3, and undead. You can give them poison and ambush. It's been a recent revelation that I've come around on swarms, and this is a good example of it. For 80 points, you get 9 toughness with regeneration pretty much with ethereal, and you can give them ambush for 85 points. That seems really nice to pop up and to cause some havoc, especially with the undead rule. They're not going to run away. They might just take some extra wounds. And with a quality of 6, you're going to take some extra wounds because you're probably not going to do much damage in combat. Your job, this unit's job, is just to sit there and muck things up. Scorpion Fiends, 3 of them for 155 points. Quality 4, defensive 4, 3 stingers, 3 attacks apiece with poison, ambush, stealth, toughness 3, and undead, with no upgrades. Tell you, with the amount of armies that I've been running lately that have scorpion units, I probably should run some scorpions. The next army that has scorpions I run across, I'm going to make a whole army of scorpions. There's just so many scorpions lately. But ambush, great. Stealth, great. Undead, great. 155 points, so they would be, like 52 points apiece. Only 3 attacks with poison each. I mean, you're not going to be going through anything heavy. Again, this is a lot of attacks with ambush. You can put a lot of attacks where you want, but it just has no punch to it. If this army was fighting against the rats would be in a whole lot of trouble. But they're fighting against the mummified undead, so we'll just have to see how that works out. The Horror Tangle you can get for the cheap cost of 120 points. Quality 5 and defensive 3. 6 attacks with its claws. Fear of 1, ensnare, stealth, toughness 6, and undead. It has no upgrades, but this is going to be tankier than you think it is. With its ensnare, giving the enemy -1 to hit. Stealth, -1 to hit when you shoot it outside of 12. Defensive 3 and undead. It'll stick around longer than you think it should. But with only 6 attacks of quality 5 and no AP, it's not going to kill a thing. Mind Screech. We got an evil squid on a stick. You get it for 180 points. Quality 4, defensive 3. It shoots Mind Blasts, 12 inches, 2 shots, Blast 3, and has 6 attacks with its tentacles. Fear 1, Stealth, Strider, Toughness 6, Undead, and Caster 2, with no upgrades. This guy will be nice to run in your pack of melee units, just giving out the Possessed and the Haunted and the Cobweb spell. He's not going to be doing much in combat himself. It is possible he could hit 6 enemies with the 2 blast shots, but again, between the mind bullets and the tentacles having no AP, if you're attacking anything tougher than a zombie, don't expect to take out much. But for spell-wise, that's where he's going to do his damage.
Another edit. We got a Great Scorpion Fiend for 145 points, quality 4, defensive 3, ambush, shadowborn, stealth, toughness 6. Has a stinger for 3 attacks of poison, a stomp for 2 attacks at AP 1, and a heavy claw with 3 attacks at AP 1. So just another giant scorpion. One day I am going to make that scorpion army.
The Shadow Cyclops, 295 points, quality 4, defensive 3, Ether Claw for 8 attacks with rending, Stomp, 4 attacks at AP 1, Fear 2, Sense Magic, Stealth, Toughness 12, and Undead, with no upgrades. So this guy is just a large, angry dude run him forward and smash stuff in the head. Again, doesn't have much AP. He does have rending, so there's a possibility of rolling 6s. But with only having stomps with AP1, he's not going to go through anything really tanky. He's just a lot of attacks thrown out there. And he's not really, compared to the other stuff, he's not really that tanky himself. He has a 3-up defense, and his only other additional thing on top of that is the Sense Magic. So that gives him the 6 to save or 4 to save if it's a spell. When it comes to the other big stuff, I put points in other big stuff. The Shadow Cyclops, it looks cool. It does. It looks cool. But point to power ratio, I don't think is that great for this guy. Octopus Terror, 420 points. Giggity. Quality 3, defensive 3, 12 attacks with his abyssal tentacles at AP1. Ensnare, Fear 2, Regeneration, Stealth, Strider, Toughness 12, and Undead. So this guy has the same thing going on as the other big guys. Really tanky with his Ensnare. This one has straight up Regeneration and Undead. And his weapon also has AP1. So he's going to be doing a little bit more damage. But against big, heavy targets, don't expect him to do much. Because again, 12 attacks is nice, but only AP1. You're not really going to be ripping through things like I think you should be. This guy, like most of the other big guys, is just a brick of toughness that's hard to chew through, thrown at the enemy. The Scare Champion, 30 points to start off with. Quality 5, defensive 5, with a heavy hand weapon, 3 attacks with 1 AP. Stealth, Undead, Hero, Toughness 3. Now, he does have upgrades, but it's not nearly as much as the characters we see in other armies. But this is what you get. You give Sense Magic, which is you roll a 6 to ignore a wound at the end of the attack, or a 4 to ignore it if it's a magic. He has the Vicious Aura, where he can give everything poison. Pumpkin Master, where he gives his unit +1 to hit. Dream Stalker, which is the Soul Hunter, which means him and his unit go a little faster, +2, +4 movement. And then Banshee for Caster 2. Now, what you should be doing with this guy, and what I did with this guy, is you take these guys, you give them the Pumpkin Master to give them +1 to hit with him and his unit, and attach him to some Butchers. And then give the Butchers the big heavy weapons for 3 attacks apiece at AP3, charge them forward, and just be a brick. Charge them forward and just be a brick of AP3 whacking stuff. And for that, give this guy the heavy great weapon for 3 attacks apiece and AP3 for himself. As far as what else he could go with, I mean, +1 to hit goes with pretty much everybody except for the Reapers, since they're already a 3+ to hit. I wouldn't worry about upgrading them. It'd be, diminishing returns on that one. Soul Hunter, everything is kind of fast. Everything in the army has Strider that needs it already. I don't see what you would need to be extra fast with, unless you have objectives that are way spread out. In a 4-turn game, you're not going to run from flank to flank. You're pretty much going to attack what you're aimed at to begin with. Giving stuff poison, if you got 5 points left over, go for it. The same thing with Sense Magic. The 6 to save is take it or leave it. For 5 points, that's up to you. You want poison, or do you want the 6 to save at the end? Not very much ways we can upgrade this character, so season to your taste.
Hey, another edit. They added another champion to the army. This is a Butcher Champion, 160 points, quality 4, defensive 3, has Devour, Fear 1, Hero, Shadowborn, Stealth, and Toughness 6. Comes equipped with a heavy great weapon with 6 attacks, AP4. He has the Umbral Horror, which gives him Vicious Aura, which allows his unit to get poison in melee. And the Dream Stalker, which gives him Soul Hunter, which the model of the unit move +2 and +4. He can also be upgraded with you can take 2 of them for the first option for 8 attacks AP2, or 4 attacks AP2 with a dual heavy shooter, 12 attacks, 6 shots, poison AP1. I have no idea how this character works, so I can't really give you any background on it. It just popped up today.
Shadow Horror, the best picture I could find was a little action scene. Rawr. 50 points, quality 4, defensive 6, 3 attacks with Rending Claws for rending, of course. Ethereal Flying, Undead, Hero, Toughness 3. So this is a guy to go with your ethereal units instead of the Scare Champion, just because it meshes better if the character has ethereal as well. He could do the upgrades of Sense Magic, Vicious Aura, Pumpkin Master, Soul Hunter, or Caster. If you want to put him with some Phantoms, with Pumpkin Master. If you want to have fast Phantoms, stick the Shadow Horror with them with Soul Hunter. That way you've got 16-inch Phantoms that ignore terrain completely. Go for it. But that's the only upgrades it gets. It only gets the ability to modify the squad it's with. And no upgrades on its weapons. So that's it for the intro. Let's go ahead and go to the battle report, where it is going to be Mummified Undead versus the Shadow Stalkers. Maybe the Shadow Stalkers could take the Undead off of their winning streak. And this week I used one of my favorite STL designers, Beasteria Minis, because he came out with a new Nagath Wave number 2. And I was like, okay, jumping on this. So, without further ado, here they come. Alright guys, that's the end of the edits. From here on out, this is going to be recorded after the updates. So this is going to be recorded on Saturday. I should have this out on Sundays. It was fun. Bye-bye. Welcome back to the garage, everybody. It is a balmy 35 degrees. We're going to be able to play while keeping the feeling in our fingers for most of the game. This here is our Shadow Stalkers, made out of the Engroth from Beasteria Minis. I chose these guys because Shadow Stalkers, Deep Ones, Horror, Cosmic Terror, it worked in my head. Let's go over the list of the models. In our list today, we have 2 squads of 3 Fang Swarms, 2 squads of 3 Butchers with a Scourge Champion, and the Scourge Champion has the ability to give them all +1 to hit in combat. We have 3 squads of 5 Reapers. And last model to show off this guy today is going to be one of the Cyclops. He was supposed to be a Octopus Horror, but with the changes to the rules, he dropped down to a Cyclops. Today their opponent is going to be the Mummified Undead, out for their 3rd battle, trying to keep their winning streak alive. The points for these guys changed as well, so the changes that we had to make here to the army list is we dropped 1 catapult, and the mummies, instead of being furious, are going to have poison. So here is the map for today, everybody. We got 4 objectives on the field. They were all put into the center of each table quarter, and then we're rolled to scatter 2d6 in a random direction. And for deployment, it has been rolled that we're going to have a side battle. So our 2 forces are going to approach from the 2 corners. The Mummified Undead in their deployment zone looked a little cramped with the number of models that they have, but it definitely looks like they're going to have a large swing out to their right. And the Shadow Stalkers have a more balanced approach with the 2 Brute squads on the far flanks, the Cyclops as close to the center as he can get, and all the units of Reapers joining him in the center. They have their 2 units of Swarms in ambush. So we're going to go ahead and roll to see who goes first. Mummified Undead, turn number 1. The God statue takes the first activation in this game like he's been doing in all the others. Moves forward 8 inches and tries to cast protection on himself, but fails. Maybe he used all of his luck up in the last game. The unit of Butchers on the Shadow Stalker's right flank moves out from behind the mountain and onto the objective. The Guardian statues of the Mummified Undead move forward to claim the objective on the opposite side of the board. The Butchers on that same flank move up towards the Guardians, but no one's in range to start charging yet. The Mummies shuffle into view on the left flank of the Mummified Undead, trying a repeat of the last game where they screened out the entire left flank. The Shadow Cyclops moves up the middle of the field towards the God statue. It seems we're going to have a kaiju fight right in the middle of the board. The Horde of Skeleton Warriors push forward towards the middle. A unit of Reapers move forward to stand next to the Shadow Cyclops. The Undead Royal Guard push towards the center, followed by another unit of Reapers. Unit of Great Snakes move forward to support the Guardian statues. The last unit of Reapers also move towards the center. It looks like it's going to be a clash between the Undead and the Walking Nightmare,
directly in the center of the board. The skeleton catapult fires at the Shadow Cyclops and scores multiple hits, but the Shadow Cyclops armor holds. The first activation of turn 2 goes to the Shadow Stalkers. So our Shadow Cyclops charges into the god statue of the mummified undead. Between the tentacles, the smashing, the cutting, the roaring, the Shadow Cyclops causes 5 wounds, and the god statue causes 4. The god statue loses combat, but passes its morale test. The skeleton warriors swarm into the Shadow Cyclops. 15 of them are able to wrap around enough to get attacks. They cause 4 wounds to the Cyclops, who then turns, and with a single swing of his barnacled bell, 3 of the skeleton warriors get crushed. Because of his fear of 2, the Shadow Cyclops won combat, and the skeleton warriors fail their morale test, causing the undead rule to come into play, rolling 20 dice, because that's how many wounds they have left. They end up rolling 9, 1, 2s, and 3s, so 9 skeleton warriors crumble into the dirt. The butchers on the Shadow Stalkers' left flank charge into the guardian statues. With their massive number of high AP attacks, they're able to do 6 wounds that get through the regeneration of the guardian statues. The lone remaining guardian statue attacks back, causing 1 wound. The guardian statue that's remaining then fails his morale test on a 2, and loses 2 more wounds. Seeing as the other flank is not doing that well, on the mummified undead's left flank, the mummies charge into the squad of butchers. With their poison, they're able to take out 1 of the butchers, but then when the butchers attacks back, they're able to kill 5 of the mummies. The mummies then fail their morale test and are reduced down to 2. 1 of the unit of Reapers charges into the skeleton warriors. They're able to cut down 4 of the skeleton warriors. Then, as the fatigued skeleton warriors attack back, their champion is able to score 2 hits, killing 1 of the Reapers. The skeleton warriors then pass their morale test. The god statue shimmies to the left to make room for the royal guard when they decide to enter the fray, and attempts to cast smiting on the royal guard and the great snakes. Unfortunately, he rolls a 1. It looks like his magical abilities just did not show up today. Then attacking the Shadow Cyclops, he's able to score 1 hit with his halberd, causing a wound to stick, and 1 wound with his stomp, but the sense magic ability of the Shadow Cyclops saves him. The Shadow Cyclops then attacks back, causing 2 hits with his rending weapon, but the god statue is able to roll boxcars to save them. Then the Shadow Cyclops passes his morale test. A second unit of Reapers join the melee in the middle, but because of the traffic jam caused by all the models that are fighting, only 1 of them is able to get in close enough to engage. That Reaper then proceeds to kill 1 skeleton warrior. 1 skeleton warrior is able to attack back, unable to do any damage. The skeleton warriors then fail their morale test, losing enough, leaving the only member of the squad still standing is the royal champion. Seeing the cluster in the middle of the board is advantageous for the moment, the mummified undead activate their great snakes on their right flank, charging into the butchers. They're able to score 1 wound with their impact hits, and then 1 wound with their lances. The butchers attack back, unable to hit anything, and they pass their morale test. Seeing that all the attack paths are too clogged to do any damage, the last unit of Reapers holds, positioning itself to be able to react to whichever side opens up first. The Royal Guard and leader charge into the Shadow Cyclops. Because of the traffic jam, and not everyone able to attack, they're only able to put 2 wounds on the Shadow Cyclops. The Shadow Cyclops then turns, completely whiffs with his rending weapon, but is able to take out 1 with his stomp. And with his fear of 2, that means the Shadow Cyclops wins combat. And the Royal Guard pass their morale test. Last activation of turn 2. The skeleton catapult fires at the Shadow Cyclops. Gets multiple hits. And the Shadow Cyclops' armor is able to save all but 1. Taking off his last wound. The Fang swarms decide to make their presence known on turn 3, both dropping in just outside of 9 inches of that catapult for vengeance for the Cyclops. The Reapers who had held last turn see their opportunity and charge into the Royal Guard. Hitting on 3+, they're able to cause a massive number of hits, but the Royal Guard is able to pass all but 2 of their armor saves. They attack back, but with the ensnare ability of the Reapers, only 1 Reaper goes down, and the Skeleton Royal Guard pass their morale test. The giant snakes on the skeleton's right flank charge back into the butchers. With their impact hits alone, they're able to take out 1 of the butchers. Then with the rest of their lance attacks, 2 more wounds off, the butcher and the character remaining attack back, able to take down 1 of the giant snakes. The butchers then fail their morale test and lose 2 more wounds. The unit of 4 Reapers work their way around the back of the god statue and charge into it from the rear. They're able to put 3 wounds on the statue. The statue then turns and removes the squad of Reapers from the board. Back on the skeleton's right flank, the remaining Guardian statue charges into the champion of the Butcher squad, and he is able to remove him from the board. Fang Swarm Squad number 1 charges into the catapult. They're able to score 2 bending hits, and the catapult fails both its saves. The catapult crew attack back, causing 1 wound. The catapult crew then fail their morale test and lose their last wound. The Mummy Squad on the left flank of the undead attack the Butchers, causing no wounds. The Butcher Squad then easily cuts the 2 remaining mummies in half. The Butcher Squad then leave the objective they were standing on and take off running towards the center of the board. The lone character left out of the Skeleton Squad doesn't choose to attack, but he does go on to the objective to contest it from the Shadow Stalekrs. The Reaper Squad that hasn't activated on this turn charges into that lone character and completely obliterate him with 7 wounds caused. The God statue charges into the squad that just removed the character of the Skeleton Warriors. Smashing in, he's able to get 3 6s, killing 3 of the Reapers. The Reapers attack back, causing no wounds, but then pass their morale test. Seeing as how they weren't needed against the catapult, the last Fang Swarm squad moves towards the objective that the Butchers just left. The Royal Guard activate, attacking the squad of Reapers that attacked them first. They're able to cause 1 wound. The Reapers then attack back, causing no wounds in return, and the Reapers pass their morale test. The Guardian statue attempts to cast Desiccation on the squad of Butchers moving up the rear, but fails to cast. The squad of Butchers charge into the rear of the Guardian statue and are able to cut it down. The Royal Guard push forward into the squad of Reapers again. The Royal Guard caused many hits, but this time, the Reaper's armor save covers all of them. The leader then attacks, and he is able to cut down 2 of the Reapers. The lone remaining Reaper attacks back and is able to kill off 1 Skeleton Warrior, and then passes his morale test. The unit of Fang Swarms moving towards the objective finally reach it. From the right flank, the Great Snakes see that they are needed in the middle, and are able to get a charge off on the Butchers. Between their impact, lance, and poison hits, they're able to take out 1 of the Butchers. The Butcher squad then attacks back, unable to do any damage. They then fail their morale test, fail 3 more rolls, and the Butcher squad is reduced down to just the squad leader. Seeing as no one else is able to cause any meaningful combat in this game, the rest of the units on the board hold. That brings us to the end of the game, and with a final score of 3-1, the Shadow Stalekrs has stopped the Mummified Undead's winning streak. So that'll do it for a first pass on the Shadow Stalkers. Let me know what you guys think. I know it was a little janky because they changed the rules on us halfway through. But when a company puts out a free update for free rules, I can't complain at all. So for next week, the poll is going to be closed now. We're going to have the Halflings take on the walking nightmare of the Shadow Stalkers. Here's the Halfling army as it stands right now. I have not checked into what happened for the update yet, but they are ready to go. Expect the Halfling first look probably the middle of the coming week. And then after that, for the next 2 videos, there's not going to be a poll, because after the Halflings take on the Shadow Stalkers, we are going to have the Fey Petal Courts from the Dragon Trapper's Lodge. And after that, I have been reached out to by a 3D creator who has a Kickstarter coming up for Catfolk. More details on that at the end of the next video, and it will be a sponsored video for the cat people. Also, this outro is getting really long, but I have an idea for a video coming up. It'll be a painting video, but I also want it to be a Q&A type situation. So I want you guys to ask me some questions, and I will endeavor to answer everything as long as it is appropriate. Try to keep it hobby related. And if we get a huge number of questions asked, I'll make a few videos about it. That way, whenever I'm painting stuff, I don't have to just speed through everything. This way I can actually talk to you guys. So until next time, where we get to see our Halfling leader put in work with his big BC, it's not what you all are thinking. That's Big Black Chicken. Please remember to like and subscribe. Leave a comment, let me know how I'm doing. Memberships are open on the channel. I actually got my first member last week. There will be another bonus video coming this week where my member has requested that the Rat Men get another shot. Well, they will, but it's going to be members only. So if he is still my only member, it will be just for him. Also, when you become a member, you're going to get near daily updates from the painting table to show you what I am working on behind the scenes. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.